Okay, so I want you to imagine for a second that a pharmaceutical company just announced this groundbreaking new daily supplement, right? They claim it has literally 0 calories, they claim it actively fights against obesity and chronic diseases, and if that wasn't enough, they tell us that choosing this supplement over other options could significantly lower carbon emissions and actually help save the planet. I mean, people would be lining up around the block. Investors would be throwing billions of dollars at this miracle cure. But what if I told you that this supplement already exists and you probably walked right past it in your kitchen this morning?
Well, it turns out the answer to that question is quite simply plain old drinking water. Specifically, the tap water sitting right inside your home. So welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a really deep and highly structured look at the science of hydration, the environmental footprint of our drinking habits, and crucially, the unseen threats that might actually be lurking in our plumbing right now. We're pulling from these massive data sets from Harvard Health, the World Health Organization, and the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences to give you the complete picture of what is easily the most important substance you consume every single day.
All right, Section 1, the ultimate super beverage.
You know, we always hear that we should drink more water, but it's just so easy to ignore that advice and grab a soda or a coffee or a sports drink instead. But looking at the data, turning a blind eye to plain water is a major missed opportunity for our health. Let's dive into this. This data comes from a massive Harvard Health study that analyzed the habits of over 18,300 adults. And what the researchers found was that participants who drank the most plain water, which by the way includes tap water and water from fountains, well, they consumed fewer total calories, less saturated fat, less sugar, and less salt. Just increasing your plain water intake by a mere 1 to 3 cups a day reduces daily caloric intake by 68 to 205 calories. And sure, that sounds small, but over time, that slight behavioral tweak adds up to massive calorie deficits. It's honestly one of the simplest, most effective weight control strategies backed by science.
And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast between what happens when we choose water versus when we choose sugary beverages. Replacing sugar-loaded drinks with water doesn't just cut calories, it actively tackles what the World Health Organization calls non-communicable diseases, or NCDs. Excessive sugary drink intake spikes your energy intake and drives weight gain, which leads to a much greater risk of type 2 diabetes and other chronic conditions. To really understand the scale of this, WHO data points out that non-communicable diseases account for a staggering 86% of all deaths in the European region. Simply choosing 0-calorie tap water is literally a frontline defense against those statistics.
Moving right along to Section 2, Health and Planet Benefits.
So the benefits of your tap water don't stop at your biology. What is fantastic for your waistline turns out to be equally fantastic for the planet. Shifting our focus to the environmental impact reveals a completely different, but honestly just as compelling set of data points. 300 times. That is the number I want you to remember from this explainer today. According to the World Health Organization, compared to tap water, bottled water has an ecological and carbon footprint that is 300 times larger. 300. When we choose the tap, we are avoiding unnecessary plastic waste, we're eliminating transport-related carbon dioxide emissions, and we're cutting down air pollutants. Plus, it's vastly cheaper.
As Dr. João Breda, who is the head of the WHO European Office for the Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases, perfectly summarizes it, promoting drinking water promises many gains. It helps save our children from the risk of overweight and obesity by replacing sugary drinks, and it helps save the planet by drastically lowering our plastic waste and our carbon footprint. By all scientific accounts, it is just the flawless choice.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, Section 3, the hidden contamination threat.
This entire flawless premise we've been talking about relies on one absolutely crucial assumption, that the water flowing out of the tap is actually safe. And unfortunately, as we shift gears into the second half of our explainer, we have to confront the harsh reality that our water sources are under serious threat. Globally, billions of people rely on water of completely unreliable quality. And we can't just brush this off as a problem happening somewhere else, far away. Data from the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences makes it crystal clear. The United States is not immune. The infrastructure that delivers this miracle beverage straight to the tap in your own kitchen is incredibly vulnerable to agricultural runoff, hazardous waste, and deteriorating pipes.
Just look at this lineup of contaminants currently challenging our water security. We are dealing with known human carcinogens like arsenic. We're seeing pesticides spike after extreme weather events like hurricanes. We are even finding prescription and over-the-counter drug residues entering the groundwater through urban runoff. And hey, if you're thinking, I'll just avoid this by retreating to bottled water, Well, actually, scratch that. Recent studies show that highly absorbable nanoplastics are found in bottled water in concentrations much, much higher than previously suspected.
And then we have one of the most alarming contaminants of all, PFAS, which you might know as forever chemicals. These are manufactured chemicals that simply do not break down. They endure in the environment and they accumulate in living organisms, which includes us. They're linked to suppressed immunity, reproductive concerns, and certain cancers. And the scale here is wild. NIEF's supported models estimate that wastewater discharges may be exposing more than 23 million Americans to drinking water with PFAS levels that actually exceed regulatory safety thresholds. To put that into perspective, that's literally millions of households exposed right now.
So the real takeaway here is that we're basically fighting a two-front war when it comes to contamination. On one side, we have the legacy threats, like lead leaching from corroded, old plumbing, which is devastatingly linked to behavioral and developmental effects in children. On the flip side, we have these very modern industrial-age threats, like microplastics that can be ingested, absorbed, and accumulate in our organs and brain, leading to reduced immunity and fertility. It's old infrastructure colliding head-on with new chemical realities.
Which brings us to Section 4, Science and Policy Solutions.
Now, I am not here to just leave you with a sense of doom and gloom. Where there is robust scientific data highlighting a problem, there is equally robust scientific innovation working on a solution. Let's look at how researchers and policymakers are actually fighting back to protect our ultimate super beverage. Through the NIEHS Superfund Research Program, this happens in very actionable steps. Let's see how this builds. First, scientists track the source. For instance, researchers at Dartmouth College extensively tracked down the sources of arsenic in New Hampshire's drinking water. Second, that rigorous data forces real policy change. It directly spurred a state law that lowered the allowed limits for arsenic. And third, we innovate. The University of North Carolina is actively developing new filtration devices designed specifically to remove arsenic and other chemicals from well water, which could benefit up to 3 million residents in that state alone.
And some of the scientific innovations happening right now are truly fascinating. At the University of Iowa, researchers have figured out a method to clean harmful PCBs from aquatic ecosystems using what's called biochar. It's this incredible material they manufacture from bacteria and corn kernel ashes. Meanwhile, scientists down at Texas A&M and the University of Connecticut are developing highly advanced strategies to trap PFAS directly in the soil that completely prevents these forever chemicals from ever spreading into our local water supplies in the first place. Science is really catching up to the contamination.
Look, water is, without a doubt, the cheapest, healthiest, and most environmentally friendly beverage on planet Earth, when it's safe. And while the scientific community is working tirelessly on a macro level to innovate new filters and push for better policies, the micro level? Well, that's up to us. Understanding the global data is important, but applying it locally is vital. So I'm going to leave you with this one provocative thought to investigate for yourself today. Do you actually know what's flowing through your local infrastructure right now?